100.
Straight down the road.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 9.
Today's episode is proudly brought to you by Airline Leather. Airline Leather is an artisanal leather goods company that only uses the highest quality materials like full-grain local leather and braided polyester thread from Germany. All items are handcrafted in their modest garage workshop in Pretoria, South Africa. You can find them on their Facebook page, Airline Leather, or click on the link below. Mention High Performance Teams for your 20% discount. Good afternoon and welcome to you. Today I've got an interesting guest lined up. It's going to be a treat. Dario Costa is an Italian Red Bull air race pilot. He's also a Red Bull athlete and just a great guy to have a conversation with about flying. He knows all about setting big goals and then working like a hell to get to them. My name is Alex MacPhail and this is High Performance Teams. Dario, how are you doing today?
Hey Alex, I'm fine. And you?
Well, thank you. It's we're getting towards winter on our side in the southern hemisphere, and there's a different chill in the air. How is Salzburg?
Well, actually, it's getting a bit bad weather, but yeah, till today was very sunny. So
okay. Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And as we hit off top of the show here, I want to just put that show reel up that you shared with me so that folks can enjoy right from the get-go. Here we go. Some wonderful scenes there, Dario. Wow, a nice little showpiece you put together from various types of flying. So, Dario, let's go back right to the beginning.
Thanks,
and let's talk about the formative times and growing up in those years as a youth where you thought about flying. And what was your home life like? Where are you from exactly in Italy?
Well, actually, I was born in UK, in Manchester. And then I moved when I was 6 years old. I moved to Bologna. Initially, I was living in Africa for 3-4 years. Then I moved to Rome, and then Bologna. I call Bologna as my hometown because it's where I grew up basically, and spent most of my life.
Okay, now your formative years, you start thinking about what possibilities are out there, but that flying bug has bit you, and you start making a plan to get going. So talk to me about how you got into the aviation game. Where did you start your flying training, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, but I started in Bologna. I did aviation high school. I mean, it's called like this in Italy. I'm not sure if it's worldwide like that. But yeah, aviation high school. So it's focused on flying, of course, and all the theoretical part about aviation. And at 6 years old, I started to do my PPL together with the school. So in the afternoon, I was going to the airport in Bologna. And yeah, I did my PPL. Then then I had to stop because I didn't have the finances to finance the rest of the courses. But of course, I didn't lose faith, and I just kept going. I went to university. I tried to do as much as possible small jobs beside the university to gain some of the budget that I needed. And then in 2002 or 2003, I don't remember. Sorry for that. I don't remember exactly. But Bologna Flying Club started a scholarship, so I signed up, and I managed to win the scholarship. And yeah, then I managed to pay half of my CPA and IFR. And from there on, then I invested money in becoming instructor, and then I continued.
Okay, so becoming an instructor is always a great way to start with you sort of early days and build up hours, but also to develop yourself, because you have to really understand the subject matter before you can share it with your student. But along the way, now you're an instructor and you spot a Red Bull Air Race event, and now all of a sudden the focus becomes, I've got to do that. So tell me about your thoughts seeing that for the first time, and we talked last week about how you just try to consume everything there was to know about it. Tell me about your thought process of seeing that in the sky and wanting to go for that.
Yeah, well, in 2003, as I said, in 2002, I think late 2002, I started again my licenses, and a course mate of mine just showed me this video of the very, very first Red Bull Air Race. And then it was like love immediately. I was always passionate in flying and motorsport, and seeing that was just a perfect combination. And so 2003, I started my CPL and my IFA, and I was working as teacher. I was working as a theoretical instructor, and from that moment on, I said that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do. So every step I took from that moment was just in that direction, whatever could take me closer and closer to that final goal. Of course, was quite. I knew that was far away, so I didn't put too much of optimism on. I knew that I was not going to join the year after, so I took everything I could. I learned as much as I could from the biographies of all the pilots to understand how you can become and how you can be invited, because basically it's on invitation. And yeah, the first thing I saw is that all the guys were very, very proficient and very good. I mean, excellent pilots, the best in the world in aerobatics.
Sure.
So I understood that. I realized that aerobatics was something I had to have well in my skills. And beside that, I realized that every pilot had a different background, which was something very, very promising, because it means that it's not only former military pilots or former airline pilots. So I said, that's it. Then I can create my own path. So I will be just doing what I can in my existing life, so I don't have to regret not going in the militaries or anything like that. So sure. I just said, okay, then I will just continue from there, and then it worked out. I mean, it took me many years. It was 2003, so you can calculate. I joined the Air Race as a pilot in 2018. So yeah, it took me more than probably most of the other race pilots, but it doesn't matter.
Okay,
it was my path. So
yeah.
I did it my own way.
Sure. Let's pause there a minute, because you mentioned so many nice things. But I want to ask you. So in the beginning, you saw it, and you said, and like you, lots of people. I'm the same. Motorsport and flying, great way to combine the two. And wow, air racing. At that point, did you have a taste at aerobatics? Did you know anything about aerobatics? Had you started yet?
No, when I saw the first race, no, actually no aerobatics, no.
Oh, wow.
No, I did the spins, of course, some spins for the PPL. We're not even on aerobatic plane, so we're on a plane. It is a P66, it's like Cessna 172, a little bit smaller, but the Italian version, let's say. And I had no test, no, nothing. I had no experience. So the first thing I asked actually is to do an aerobatic flight. Mm-hmm. So I had to wait a bit for it, and then yeah. It was quite interesting.
Sure.
After the first flight, I slept for almost 20 hours. I was so exhausted, but yeah.
It's wonderful.
I mean, so much then.
So to have this, I mean, it's a lofty goal to say, I'm going to do that one day, Red Bull Air Race. You haven't even done any aerobatics yet, but now you start reading up, you immerse yourself in everything you can to say, well, what type of person gets there? What type of background? What training do I need? And so the first thing that stands out for me is, well, I need to get proficient at aerobatics. So is that the first thing you tackled? What was the first step you did to say, if I want to get there, I must put this in place and I'm starting here?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the common thing that all the pilots had as very high skills and knowledge and experience in aerobatics. So I knew that I couldn't afford to do aerobatics in 2003. So I continued my licenses with the aim of having the finances to self-finance my aerobatics. And when I finished my licenses and my instructor rating in 2007, so it was already almost 4 years after I saw that video, I realized that still I didn't have the budget for doing aerobatics by my own. And I couldn't, I went to all the places and everybody was asking me too much money. But then I was teaching one APL subject in this school called in nearby Bologna, half an hour drive from Bologna. And they had airplanes, aerobatic airplanes, in the hangar. So when I noticed that, I immediately asked, what can I do in exchange to get some lessons for aerobatics? And then they said, well, actually, we're looking for an aerobatic instructor. Okay. So we can offer you to pay you the aerobatics rating, and then you get proficient in aerobatics. You get the hours that you need to be eligible to attain the instructor training for aerobatics. And then you work for us for a minimum of an amount of years, which was 3, okay, and pay us half of what we paid. So you just give us back half of it. And that's what I did. Okay. That's exactly what I did. So I stopped working in Bologna. As a teacher, I finished my license. I had already finished my license. I moved to Lugo, and I was doing that. And in exchange, I could fly aerobatics.
Oh, wonderful! So you've got that first step done. Now you can fly aerobatics, and now you start teaching aerobatics, and you start upskilling yourself. But obviously, that's not enough. Once again, there's a couple of common streams to get into the Red Bull Air Race. But you actually need to be very good. You talked about this. You need to be a very good pilot, a high skill, but you also need to be very good at aerobatics. And so you work your way up to a national champion, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I started to get to national champion came later, 2016, sorry. But before, I started immediately. As soon as I had the rating, I started to do the championship. My first championship, I ended up second. So not finishing first, but still it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I continued to teach a lot. I couldn't afford to fly any airplane that was capable of flying in a limited category, which is the top category. So I had to stay lower. Maximum I could with the flying club airplane that I was allowed to fly was the Cap 21, which is quite an old but lovely machine that I still love a lot. But you go to the higher categories. So I had to wait still to go to the higher categories. And then I had to do a jump from intermediate to unlimited, jump in the advanced to save money, because I couldn't afford to do 1 year, only one lower category to get to the top. So this took me again many years. So we ended up to be in 2016 since 2003. So you can imagine how many years of looking at the mirror and saying you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not going to be invited in that championship. But I felt young still, so I was like telling myself, just keep going. It's your own way, and that's it.
Okay, I like what you say there. You keep looking in the mirror. I just want to add one thing. You look in the mirror and you say, not good enough, and you just put the word yet on the end. Not good enough yet. I will just keep upskilling myself. And that's really the essence and the theme of this program is high-performance teams, is putting things in place to just improve just that little bit better every day. We say incremental gains. You prepare well, you execute with precision, and you review. And you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, was that good enough? How can I improve just that little bit? But you improve the game, and you get up to that point now where you've become highly proficient in aerobatics, and now there's an opportunity to get involved at Red Bull, and you're not only a highly qualified aerobatics pilot, but you have other skills because you've been involved in the flight operations at the flying school, one of the biggest flying schools in Europe. You're involved in course syllabus and EASA approval with the aviation body. So tell me how then the transition goes from there's an opportunity there and you'll do whatever it takes to just, show them that you're worth it and get the job done, to just be involved with Red Bull Air Race.
Yeah, of course. As I said, I didn't have the capabilities to have my own plane and fly in the top category. So I still had to find some job that could helped to finance all this. And then in 2013, I had this job offer from Rebel Air Race, so I could be behind the scenes of it. And of course, it was the plan still to compete. That was the plan. So, but that was one step to get closer. And I accepted that job. I had to move from where I was living, which was Milano, because I was working for the Fan Club, and I had this opportunity to move myself and my family, my wife and my little kid that was 1 year old. So we moved to Salzburg, which was fantastic. I mean, at the beginning was quite hard, but was a fantastic decision. And I had a chance to work beside the guys that created the Rebel Air Race. So was already a step into the dream, you know. So learning from them, and since it took me so long, I knew that one step per time was the way to get the best. You know, I didn't want to. I mean, thinking back, if someone is coming to me and say, hey, I can offer you to go back in the past and jump directly from first competition, aerobatic competition into air race, I will refuse, you know, even if it would give me more years, because I know that the level I would have of knowledge and experience would not be enough to put me inside there in a competitive style, let's say, to be competitive in the competition. So then I chose to go behind the scenes, even if it was quite hard, and I've been suffering a lot looking the other guys coming into it and competing and doing what I wanted to do. But I always said myself, this is my own way, you know, this is my own path, and I will get there my own way. And then finally, fighting a lot, I managed to get in, and I'm happy for that, you know, for those decisions.
Yeah, okay. I like the points you bring out there. So many good sort of teaching points and sharing of people that are watching and want to get there. You know, firstly, it's not there's not one route to get there. Secondly, can you just do it on your own with a plan and make it work? You work hard, you do different types of jobs just to get to the one step closer, and then you, as you say now, you if you had that opportunity, perhaps you would have been set up for failure, because being thrust in the deep end without that sort of foundational knowledge. At that time, you were ferrying aeroplanes around, so you got more competent on the aircraft type. You started getting involved in track development, and that really just adds to the skill set. So it's a great story that you share. But now you get yourself in the show, and I want to put a picture up of a photo of the air race that you shared with me. So what was that like, getting into this? You finally get that opportunity to join the race series. What was that like to just get out there and be a race pilot? It must have been wonderful, knowing that this was a 10-year plan. And now it was starting.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2017 when I got into the quali camp. So I was invited from behind the scenes. I was invited to be in front of it, and and it was just incredible. The first time I flew through the track was just it was like the first solo. Is something you never forget. It's getting there, and all it's the reward that you've been working for. Actually, I was working 2003 till 2017, so it was more than 10 years. It was 14 years, huh?
Yeah.
So 14 years, and this was the reward. And being then passing the camp was another huge reward, you know. But it was not really even, I wanted just this. What I wanted was to get there, to have the chance. It was what always I've been telling to my boss in Rebel Air Race. Just give me the chance to see how I perform, you know. And if I don't perform good, just send me home. That's it. But now I feel that I can perform well. So give me the chance, please, like you give to the other guys. And that was it. I got the chance. I got qualified. I had to do one standby year as standby pilot, so I couldn't get in the season. So another year suffering a little bit, but again I was working with these guys, and I used this year to learn from all these excellent and fantastic people working in the background of the Rebel Air Race, trying to learn everything I could to get even better for 2018, which was my rookie year, my first year.
It's a good story, and it's so nice. And that rookie year, now you've got a bit of a taste of what the event is like, and that's obviously given you some kind of an advantage, because you know the people, you know how the tracks work, and so even though other people, like we mentioned, Patrick Davidson a few weeks ago, a friend of yours starting at a similar time, he hasn't seen the track, so you must have had some kind of edge going into this new type of sporting event, that all the buzz and the stuff around doesn't take your attention off the job at hand. You know, you're familiar with the people, you're familiar with the noise, you're familiar with the track layout. So talk me through that first season. How did it go for you?
Well, I mean, you're saying that it was familiar, but this is actually, I don't feel that this was very good point. I mean, positive point, because I had so much pressure. You know, I have all the eyes on, and it's all the people that you've been telling for 4 years that you wanted to race, and now you have to prove that it was the good decision from the company to take you away from the backstage and put you on the stage. So actually, I had more pressure to show that it was worth having me as competitor and not as employee, more than the I would say the pressure coming from the spectator, which actually I was quite happy with. You know, I was quite handling quite well. So yeah, I knew the people, I knew everything, but I also knew how easy it was to disappoint them. You know, so a lot of pressure. In some moments, especially in the first races, I was wishing inside me, I was wishing not to be a former colleague of the guys, not the judges, the race directors, or the workers there. You know, the people that were there and say, "Oh, look at the guy. Now we have to see how he performs. Let's see how he performs." He was saying that he wanted to race. Let's see how he, you know. They met me that I was not racing. They met me as a no race pilot, and then suddenly after 4 years they see me race. So I don't think was a big advantage, you know. So yeah.
Well, it's great
but
that you.
my point of view, of course, probably I would say the opposite. Huh?
Sure. Well, it's nice to get that perspective,
yeah.
and really, it's one of the essences of having these conversations, to show that, you know, when you stand back and you look at someone's career or their achievements or where they are in life, sometimes it's easy to skip the challenges along the way. And again, it's not from getting from the beginning to the end, this is not a linear journey. I mean, so talk about some of the setbacks. You're on your way up. I mean, this must have been quite a stressful time for you, going to say, well, I'm here and people know me for years now and the expectation's high. What are the other setbacks and things can you share with us that just shows you that even though you plan and you work hard and things fall into place, sometimes they fall out of line as well?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I've been telling myself since I was quite little that, I've been refusing and telling myself to believe in talent. I mean, who knows me, heard this from me many times. So this was my mantra. I mean, I was telling this every morning. So I refused to believe that people are going and making something just because they got talent. I can't believe that we can be on, I mean, you can born with skills for flying. I can't believe that. You know, nature doesn't. I don't think that biologically is possible that you can be better pilot than me just because you were born like that. So maybe it is like that, but I'm happy that I always refused to believe in talent, because this forced me to improve myself. Every time I had somebody telling me you're not good enough. You know, at the beginning they were telling me you don't have enough money to do aerobatics, and then I solved that problem, finding a way to pay back not in money but in different ways, like teaching or whatever. And then they told me you're not good enough. So then I said, okay, then I will have to take more years to train. And then they told me whatever, you know, you're not young enough. So all these are moments that you might decide, you might thinking that it's not for you, you know, you're not made for that. But that's exactly the opposite I was believing. And every time I got the door closed, I was even more committed and even more motivated to prove the opposite. So every time there is something that, or somebody telling me that I'm not for that, you know, it's not the way you should go, I'm actually even, it's a good thing for me. It's even motivating me. So I when I look back again, I say thank you. I sent a message and saying thank you to the people when I got into the race, and I went on the podium on my second race ever. I sent a message to a couple of guys that were keeping me, trying to keep me on the ground, saying, no, you're not going to be a Red Bull Air Race, but it's not for you, you know. There are people that are born for that, and you are not one of them. So I sent a message saying, thank you for telling me that, because that's what actually helped me to get here. Probably if I was not told like that, I was just, okay, I'll get there because I'm good enough, you know, and then I wouldn't put enough, as I told you, I wouldn't put enough effort. And maybe it was in the race for 1 year, and then without doing any result, and just then even be more disappointed with myself. So,
sure, I love that concept, Dario. Yeah, because when obstacles go in front of you, you have to get over them. And when you get over them, there's a process of learning a new skill that you're going to need for the next obstacle, and you're not going to get to the elite point of your career that you're striving for to do Red Bull Air Race without all those skill sets properly developed along the way. So these obstacles need to come in front of you, and you need to learn a skill to get over them. And you've summed it up so nicely, sending the thank you message to the people that put obstacles in front of you just to help you upskill yourself. That's wonderful. I want to just take a sideways track here, and I want to play that video clip that you shared with me about now we're talking sponsorship, and that's another major aspect of professional performers, particularly sportsmen. So let's have a look at this video clip that you put together. Oh, that's a great piece of cinematography there, Mr. Sutton. Tell us the backstory there. We've got the sort of behind the scenes video coming up shortly, but tell me about the backstory. You saw such great art out there, and you just thought there has to be a way that I can get involved with great art and flying and sponsorship. So tell us your story of the Hamilton photo shoot.
Yeah, I mean, sponsorship is not really related to it. I saw some works of Jacob Sutton, who is the director of this incredible, as you say, piece of art, and I fall in love with his way of showing sports. So he was working for other brands. I can't mention, but anyway, if you Google him, you will find that his amazing previous jobs before this. I fall in love. I just looked around who was the director of those clips, one in particular, which was a skateboarder, and I found out was Jacob Sutton. I just wrote an email with a generic email address at the website, and I said, look, this is me, this is what I do. At that time, I had actually no sponsors, so I was working for the Airlines in the behind the scenes. I was still working hard to get in the Airlines as competitor. So I was doing air shows. So I was around doing air shows. That year, I think I was flying Edge, an Edge that I was renting from Red Bull. And basically, I said, I want to do something with you. Is there any chance that I can be your character for your next work? And then like daydreaming, and I got an email back. I got a reply from him, and he wanted to talk about it. I said yes, absolutely, it would be amazing. And then we started to brainstorm together, and then he came up with the location, because he had worked there already before, and he knew the production team, which is actually from South Africa, and then yes, we started to work. But this was 2 years before we had the chance to find the brand that was interested in doing that, which was Hamilton, and I have to say it was absolutely perfectly fitting. I mean, I could not imagine anything else doing that. That kind of movie, of short movie. So it was absolutely fantastic. So everything came together in the perfect way. It just took a lot of time. Again, for 2 years, me and Jacob were chatting, and he was trying to offer the project to other brands, then I got the sponsorship from Hamilton, and then we offered to Hamilton this idea, and they loved the idea, and I think it was the best to be waiting for 2 years. And then we managed to go there, and what we wanted to do, the concept was to do something completely different with aviation, showing that aviation can be also something different, not what we are used to, especially aerobatics. And Namibia and the Namibia test was just the location, perfect location. It was super difficult to get everything there. The production company did an amazing job to get the permissions. I had to, of course, suffer a lot to get my South African license conversion. So it was not easy. It was from multiple sides. Was an amazing and a super hard job. And that's probably why nobody ever done something like that before. And but it was worth it. It's we had some weather issues, so we wanted to shoot a bit more, but we couldn't. So we had to improvise. I mean, not improvise like last minute, but we had to change the plans. We had backup plans, and Jacob was amazing with his creativity. He came up with exactly what we needed. So yeah, and at the end we wanted to do really a cinema, a cinema movie, a short movie for cinemas. That was the aim. We didn't want to do something like for social media. That was not the aim. The aim was to do something like, as I said, something that could be named as art,
Sure. No, but when I look at it, I mean, as you say, there's so much hard work. There's so many things come out of this little thing. So in the beginning, when I said sponsorship, well, here is another classic example. You have an idea, and many people have these ideas of creating something. But if somebody had told you, or maybe you're that hardworking type of person who somebody says, that's not possible, it makes you work harder. But when you put all the things down in front of you to say, if you want to make this kind of project that you're talking about, you're going to have to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. You'll think, well, that's a mammoth task. Maybe I'm not going to bother. But this project was an idea, and it took 3 years to finish a 2-minute video clip. And if people just understand the amount of work that goes into such a short thing, but to create something really beautiful and special, I think it's another sort of a characteristic of yours that shows, I'm going to go for this, and I'm going to work hard, I'm going to make it happen. And if we have to find the perfect sponsor, and I agree with you, the Hamilton brand at the end there with the ticking of the watch piece, I think it's just a wonderful way it all came together. You found the person you wanted, you had the idea, you brainstormed the best way it could work, and you did it. I'm going to play the little behind the scenes clip because there's some nice insights there too. And then you can share some of the difficulties with using Patrick's airplane on the last day and ferrying across the country. So let's have a look at this clip, and we'll talk more after.
It's incredible. I cannot believe they are true. A painting. Beautiful. Your brain is free from everything. When I fly, I think only about the flight.
Clear. There's no guarantee, but it looks like it might be completely clear tomorrow, and then tomorrow afternoon might pick up quite quickly.
I want to put the ground crew on top of like something like 1, 2.
I'd love him to be able to fly along their faces.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Straight up.
I mean, I saw some of his works and I got immediately inspired, and I said, we need to do something together. What do you think? And then he came up with the desert, and then we started to look where was the best.
Find a spot for both, and we'll literally just put a flag in the ground. Position myself close to those dunes.
Got number 1, approach. I'll position the helicopter back there.
I think that to the left, with the short over, you can follow me.
Yeah, we'll climb up to 2,000 feet, and you'll start doing turns around it.
Oh, Dario, just so wonderful. I love those behind the scenes stories are also so good. And I remember you sharing with me recently that, even on the last minute, there was just that extra bit you needed to finish and you needed some extra approval. So tell me about that last minute scramble of trying to get it all together, flying back to Johannesburg and flying back to the desert again.
Yeah, no, I had some delays on my license. So my South African license. So was not the fault of anybody. It was just bureaucracy time, and I have to say that the South African Civil Aviation Authority was very helpful. But I had to fly there and ask them to help me to give me the license in time, because otherwise we would have lost the days of shooting. Because after us was shooting another movie, a Hollywood movie. So I really had to go. So I took just a couple of days before, I just decided to take an airliner, go to Johannesburg from PE, and then come back the morning at 4, and then, yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. But that was just the last part. If I just can tell you this, weeks before, there was a recon flight made by Scott, the producer. And he went up there and checked all the dunes and took videos, hours of videos, and then Jacob chose the dunes that he wanted to shoot, and we had the dunes, and every dune had a name. Had a letter, like let's say a name, and then he sent to me the sketches of what he wanted to do. So all this happened before that, So we had to he had the vision, and I had to brainstorm with him how I could fly of those dunes, considering the permits we had, because we were not allowed to do everything we wanted, of course, as you can imagine. So I was not allowed to go inverted at 1 meter from the dune. So there were limits that we had in the maneuvers I could do. And at the end, we had to study at home before coming there to have the dunes well in mind.
Sure.
So this was part of the process. It's not just let's go and then fly, and you fly over the dune and that's it. You had camera crew on the ground, sitting in the specific position, and you know how difficult it is to climb a dune like that. The biggest dune in the world. You can't tell them, okay, now move 10 meters away. Everything you do is ours. And then the airport was not around the corner, so I had to ferry for a long time to the location of the dune and then come back for fuel. So we couldn't stay there and just go for it, go. Helicopter camera, ground camera crew. Is a hell of a work climbing the dune. If the dune is the wrong one, everything was planned before. That's why everybody did everybody did really its personal best to make it happen, and I'm super grateful. I will be grateful forever for every single person who was involved in that project, including Patrick, that, as you said, rented me the plane, and we had to ship from Europe. We had to ship 2 or 3 months before. We had to ship the single-seater canopy, because that plane was two-seater, but of course doesn't look as sexy as the single seat. So the factory was super helpful. So Extreme Air, the factory in Germany, was super helpful to have me in this project, giving me the canopy. So building a single-seat canopy and sending it to South Africa. The team of Patrick put it together, and then we had to foil the plane black. Of course, the plane was Rebel branded underneath for Patrick, and we had to cover it in black to have the picture that we wanted, which was having a branding on the plane, because that's what we wanted since the beginning with Jacob. So it was not related to any sponsorship or whatever. Sure. And just to make the movie look like it looks. So the black on the orange, which are the colors of the logo of Hamilton.
Well, it's a great story.
So it was a massive amount of work. And the same was for the permission to fly in the desert. We had the production company with the local team have been working for months. So even before the beginning of the year, they were already working on it, and they got the permission. But it was a hell of a job. So it's not easy, not easy at all.
No, I imagine the team of making this thing happen. And you look at this, the product now is your cinematic, your aerial ballet. It's beautiful. I can imagine it playing on an advert shortly before the Top Gun 2 movie comes live on the cinema, big screen. It must just be something wonderful to see on the big screen with good sound. But you can look back with pride and say this was a great product. It was something we worked hard for. And the team, so how, as you go along with this and you're building this product, in this case it's the advert, How are you reviewing your performance? How are you trying to just improve each day? I mean, you've got limited time, but so what kind of things do you do to look at your shooting of the day or your plan of the day to make it better tomorrow?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's fundamental. When you fly for a movie, you're literally flying for the camera. You're not flying for a judge, you know. So it's a complete different way of flying. So you have to forget about classic aerobatics, and you have to think about the spectator and the director and what they want to see. You know, it's a complete different type of debriefing that you do to yourself. And what I need is exactly what the director. What the director thinks. So if he thinks that it was okay and I have to do exactly the same, then I will do exactly the same, for example. But for me, it was super crucial after each flight to talk to Jacob and say, Jacob, how was it? And then he was reviewing the video and was telling me what to do. There was no chance or no space or no time for me to argue that the roll was not the aerobatic perfect roll and the roll, you know, there is no way, you know, when you fly for a video, this is what I learned this is what Mirko flying, which is the guy that is flying aerobatics with the helicopter together with me, teach me, because he was filming many times. I was doing, a few times I've been doing some movies with Red Bull Air Race. So I was flying the airplane for them to do some filming, and Mirko was filming me. And the first thing he told me, he said, Dario, you have to fly for me. You can't fly for you or for the aerobatic judge, you know. This is complete different way of flying. So you have to switch. I have a switch, and I change from the vertical line that has to be perfectly vertical from a judge that is looking at you in an oblique way from the ground. You have to think about doing it vertical for the camera that is on the helicopter or for the camera that is on the ground. It's a complete different way of flying. So that's fundamental for me to get the feedback directly from the director. So the guy that is putting together the video. If he likes it, it's okay. If he doesn't like it, I have to change the flying and go for what he wants. There is no way that I'm going to argue with him and say, no, it was perfectly round, you know. It's no way.
That's it. I like those concepts. I mean, Dario, we could talk about these kind of details for hours, and I love your work ethic as well. I've put up that picture. You talked about the helicopter, flying dissimilar types of helicopter and an aerobatic airplane. Now you've also got the wingsuit, the Red Bull team now. This was a photo shoot, and I know there were some video clips earlier as well of the guys jumping off in their wingsuit. So just talk us through those kind of team dynamics and working in these teams. I mean, what do you feel when you know that working in these teams and it's going well? What is the feeling you get when the team is in sync? It's a high-performing outfit. It's a high-risk endeavor. And what feelings do you get when you know we are all singing from the same hymn sheet today, and today is going to be a good day?
Yeah, first of all, you have to trust the team members. That's something that I've always been telling the guys, that I probably would not do this, or I would have not done this with anybody else. So you have to know the background of the guys. You have to know how they not only the performance skills, you know, it's not about that. It's all that is before that. So it doesn't matter if the guy is able to do a loop with a helicopter. It's completely a different story. You know, when you want to put yourself in such a never done before and dangerous, let's call it dangerous maneuvering or display, you know that you are inventing something that nobody else has experienced before. You know, so you can't go for the guy that is just able to do the loop. You need that the guy has a complete different background. I mean, has a complete full background of mitigating and elaborating and brainstorming and debriefing and being grounded and knowing that experience is not something you can buy or you can get just doing it, you know, a couple of times. So this is why I started this with Mirko, because I knew his background. I knew how many different types of flight he did before. So from being an instructor, from being a commercial helicopter pilot, from being filming helicopter pilot, you know, a complete 360 degrees experience and mentality. So maturity, especially maturity. So it's not about being crazy. You know, I always say that it's not true that I have no fear. I actually have fear. If I didn't have fear, I would have been already dead, unfortunately, with all the crazy stuff that they do. So it's actually the opposite. You need to fear that mitigate it and have no fear during the performance, but having it before, so that you can plan in the perfect way and you can brief in the perfect way, so, and then you are focused only during the performance. And the guys, the Red Bull Skydive team, super experienced. I've been working with them for the air race because they were performing with us for 5 years before we did this, so I've been seeing them every day. We're friends. I know exactly how they are, also out of the cockpit. And this is for me fundamental. That's how you get into something like that. I think this is my thinking. I don't want to convince anybody. It's just what I think.
I love what you put there. The trust and the maturity, but also having that healthy respect for the environment that you're in, because it's a high risk environment. It's dangerous. You put it bluntly, it's a dangerous environment, and you have to have a plan in place to make sure that you mitigate all risks. And having that healthy view of it, it keeps you alive. Dario, we've got so much media that we can talk through. I'm not going to get to it all, but I want to just talk about this picture here. You've got all these different projects. You had the project with Hamilton, or it became Hamilton in the end, but it was actually with Jacob with the dunes. But talk us through this image here. And I know you got involved with the Italian brands. This is the Lamborghini one. This is another great photograph. These ideas, these visions that you have these sort of mini projects, and you have a sort of a creative view of how you could make a connection with a brand, and you set about going after it. And again, nothing is quick. Tell me about the Lamborghini arrangement.
Yeah, Lamborghini was another idea I had 3 years ago. It was about in this case we were promoting and launching the new model, the Lamborghini Aventador S. It was super nice because I had the chance to fly in Livigno snow park, which is very cool. I think it's one of the coolest in the world. And the idea was to basically show that the guy was trying to race me with a Lamborghini. That was the idea. But the guy, before getting a Lamborghini, was actually skiing. So was doing freestyle jumps. Okay. And the idea comes from doing something again that was never done before. So synchronizing on a video or on a picture, me flying beside the guy in the air. So basically flying in formation with a skier. That was the idea that started at the beginning. So I wanted to be in the air at the same time with a skier and have that shot that we have actually. And it took a little bit of time because of course synchronizing so different speeds and everything is white, very similar to the Deuce. I have to say that was a good learning for me for being ready for the Deuce because it's the same missing depth perception, and flying low there is quite on the edge. Say it's quite critical, but we made it. I was super happy about that, and yeah. That was one. I think that was the very first video that I did for a brand, and it was very, very cool. The director was Alessandro Zorio, and a great guy, and the team also there worked hard because we had to switch. You can imagine that we had shots with the car, shots with the skier. So everybody up in the mountain, they had to close the ski resort, close the city afterwards of Livigno to let me fly low beside the car. Sure. And in the streets was crazy. The police was stopping the car. So it's another great amount of work. Yeah,
and then I'm going to just bounce off from that. You got a Ducati one as well. I mean, just such great your ideas for these kind of things. I know you bounce it off lots of people, but well done for pulling these off. And this looks like fun, racing a motorbike. Wow. And, that's close and low and fun, and you can see the action and the speed. Tell us about the Ducati event.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Bologna. I mean, I grew up in Bologna. So I grew up with Lamborghini and Ducati in my mind as the best vehicles out there. So for these two brands was always there. So when I approached Ducati, was again a great feeling, and we had exactly the same visions. And this bike, the project for this bike, thanks to Giulio Fabri, which is the head of communication for Ducati, and former tester, and still is testing the bike. So a great guy and great friend of mine. We managed to show the connections between a motorbike like that, which is the V4R, which is one of the first production bikes with wings, but is the most powerful production bikes of that category of engine, so the 1000 cc. So that was the aim, to show the connection between a bike like that and an airplane, a race plane, you know. So exactly the same philosophy. So aerodynamics first. So they designed this bike based on aerodynamics, studying in the wind tunnel, and of course trying to get the best out of it using aerodynamic features. So it's exactly what we are doing in a race plane. We get the race plane that is stock, and we modify that as much as possible using aerodynamic features because we can't touch the engine. And this is exactly the same concept in these bikes because they're limited in the World Superbike Championship. They're limited with the engine modifications, and they came up with aerodynamics. And Ducati is famous because it was the first MotoGP team that came up with aerodynamic features like the winglets, or actually wings. These are not even winglets. These are proper wings with winglets, because if you look carefully, they have winglets themselves. So it's really cool.
I see that just
was the perf match.
Yeah, I see that just behind the sort of headlights there, underneath the handlebars, there's those black wings there. It's a great shot, and it's a nice story that goes with it. Some people are tuning in and they're asking some questions, so I just want to ask you. So Brian is asking, what's next for you? You've got all these big goals. What's your next goal, Dario?
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to do is to keep doing things that were never done before, and but not just to tick them, but to create something that can stay, you know, like the video in Namibia. So doing things that were never done before, like the performance with Mirko and with the skydivers, this Red Bull aerobatic triple, we call it. So doing something that was never done before, but with a specific style that can stay, you know, and you can look at it and doesn't get old, you know. It's not just doing it, it's just how it's presented afterwards, you know. So that's my goal. I can't tell you guys more, but there is a long list. Actually, probably I will not be able to do it. I will need 3 lives to do them all. But yeah, and of course my big dream of racing is the priority. So I really hope that the air race will come back next year, which is apparently the plan, and that's my first goal. So my sporting let's say career is my first goal, and then all the rest comes after. Sorry.
Well, that's good. We'll have to talk off the air about your long list of things. And Dario, have you flown any gliders before?
No, never flown. I mean, I flew when we started flying with the school when I was 16. Actually, at 15 years old, they put us first on the glider. So I had that experience at 15 years old. And that's it. Nothing else anymore. Okay. And another question coming through from Rodney is asking, can you tell us anything about that picture behind you? It's a P-38. It's one of the flying bulls. It's one. I'm not sure where I should. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, it's a P-38. Yeah, it's not a plane I'm flying. Unfortunately, it's an amazing plane. I think it's probably the I don't know if it's the most precious machine that the Flying Bulls fleet has, but it's one for sure. Is one of them, you know. So it's very, very nice. It's my favorite, actually. If I have to look at them all, it's my favorite. Okay, well, and I know you are involved flying in the PC6 there with Red Bull. So there's a picture of the Red Bull PC6 as well. Yeah. Tell me about the PC6 versus flying your aerobatic airplane. What's that like to fly? Well, the PC6 is a super fun machine. The performances for landing and takeoff are extremely, really extreme, I have to say, not extremely, extreme. I mean, compared to the Edge, for example, that is the plane that I fly the most. They have the same landing gear configuration, as you can see, but all the rest is kind of a single engine, and the rest is kind of performance-wise is a complete different machine. That's a working machine, and is doing that job amazingly. The climb and the descent performances are incredible. The loading is incredible, but there are so many small things that you have to take care of that needs to be taken care, not to do big mistakes, you know, like the trimming, all the kind of things that I don't have in the Edge. In the Edge, I don't even touch the trim. My trim is set as I like it, and I barely touch it, you know, just maybe very fine, but that's it. Okay. So it's a different philosophy of flying. It's a complete different philosophy of flying. I'm really grateful that in the past I've been due to my teaching and other things, and due to the fact that I've been trying to fly as much as possible different machines, I've been very lucky to fly multiple machines. So I've been in many different types of machine or models of the even same Cessna 172. I flew 5 or 6 of them, just different, because I changed the schools where I was teaching, and it's so much interesting. I mean, you can learn so much just flying different machines. So it's something I always like to say to the people that are asking me, what do you think is a good way to learn flying to improve your skills, is to change, as much as you can. Of course, keeping it safe or flying, for many planes you have to be rated, so you need to fly together with a rated pilot. But just to have the feel of touch of flying a different machine opens your mind. Again, that kind of experience that makes you more mature, and then you don't grow. There are many pilots that I talk to, and they didn't have the luck and the opportunity to fly different machines, and maybe they fly only 1 or 2 types of planes after the training, and that's something that I think it's important to try to touch, to have hands on different sticks and different yokes as much as possible, or side sticks, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's something that I would like to explore more.
Mind,
Sure, you're getting that sort of wider exposure to different things. I'm just going to ask you 1 or 2 more questions, but before I do, this little clip here talking about your sort of fitness routine. There you're on a rolling board. This is one of your Instagram clips. Talk me through this activity. This looks quite straightforward. Not really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Rebel can, of course, is not part of the training, but the rest is a training I do usually in the off season. I do a lot of this. We all know that flying is very expensive. We already know this. And what I try to do at home in the years preparing myself for the air race, especially in the years I was behind the scenes, and I realized. And actually, one coach in 2013, one coach that I really love, I don't want to mention the name, but I love him. I really like him, and I'm grateful that I had him and other coaches like him that were straightforward to me. And he said, Dario, you have at this point, you have the hand for flying, but you don't have the body, And this was 2013, and he told me, you're not strong enough. That's something you have to fix. And Many people would get maybe pissed. I was sad with myself and was pissed with myself, and I did all I could from that moment on. All I did is trying to find a way to prepare myself for flying at high Gs, and this was already something I was doing as a teacher, as an instructor. I was flying 5 to 10 aerobatic flights per day. But this was a complete different thing, was maximum 5 Gs with the plane I was flying, and sometimes maybe 6 or 7 with the extra, but the extra was not that much used with my students. It was too expensive for them. So I was flying the Mood Recap 10, and you couldn't pull more than that, So my limit was very, very good to that amount. So I could cope very well to that amount, even passively, but I had to find a way, and I read many books. I got in touch with many other experienced pilots. Everybody was saying, of course, the same thing that we all know, that the best way to get used to G-force is to pull Gs, But to pull Gs, you need a plane, and you need to have access to a plane every day you want.
Yeah.
And if you consider that, then will be very, very difficult for a normal guy, let's say an average guy, to get trained for G-force. And then what I did is try to study on myself and see what exercise were the best to get fit in that direction, not just bodybuilding. You don't need to be a bodybuilder to do aerobatics. You need something different. And it's so unique, and the sport is so different. You look into Formula 1 guys, but they're pulling lateral Gs and frontal Gs. They're not pulling vertical Gs, There is no blood circulation involved in that. So what to do, and then at the end, I managed in these years to find a routine training that I use in off-season, especially in the off-season, that helps me when I get back on the plane to be more ready, let's say, for high G-force, and to have that kind of G-force tolerance that you need in a racetrack, which is 1 minute, and you're pulling from an average of 5 to an average of 7 Gs with peaks of 12 Gs. So that's something you have to train somehow, and that was the way I did it. There are probably other people that they don't need, because maybe they have other physiology, or how you say in English. So their body is better for G-force. But in my case, I had to invent all this kind of balancing and core and the coordination and high coordination exercises, which I love a lot now. And so that's some part of my routine training for the off season.
Did you notice that worked for you? Was there an improvement with combination of balance and ropes and coordination? Did you get a better G tolerance?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about only the G tolerance; it's more about situational awareness. And then you when you train for the G tolerance on the plane, then all the rest, what I learn is that the best your body is coping with the whole environment of flying a race plane or an aerobatic plane, then the more energy you have and the more space in your brain you have available to focus on coping with the G-force. So my problem was that my brain and my whole body was thinking too much of coping with the G-force, and I was not able to do that because the whole environment was too much, So I was overloading myself. And then once I do all these exercises and this training, and I'm fit in the right way, then I have a lot more space in my brain to focus on the G-force and especially on the track. So flying the track and being in front of the plane and not behind. Otherwise, I have to focus first to manage my body that is moving around and my eyes, and it will be too much. It was too much at the beginning. So this coach told me this very aggressive, straightforward thing, and it completely changed my self-esteem went under the ground, of course, and I completely change my physical training.
Dario, it seems to be a common theme of you. You find something that gives you a big dent in your armor, you lose your self-esteem, and you find a way to just patch that up even stronger. And I'm going to go out and get myself a roller and some ropes and give this type of training a chance and see where my self-esteem ends up too. Dario, it's been great chatting to you. Last question, and then I'll let you get on. You've been in lots of different teams. You've been in aerobatic teams, you've been in instructor teams, you've been in the Red Bull Air Race and flying with helicopters and this camera crew team. What is your top tips to create and foster that high-performing teams?
Well, first of all, you need the trust. If you don't trust your team members, then you're in the wrong team. I think it's something very hard to gain with the time, and probably you have no time. You can't put yourself. If you don't have the trust, you don't feel safe. That's the problem. So you are the first one not to perform. That's the problem. And also the other thing, the other tip I give is always, it's not important to get to focus, which was one of my mistakes at the beginning of my short air race career, which was thinking of the result. The result has so many variables that are out of your control. And you have to focus on what is under your control. And under your control is to be as much as possible ready for that moment and give the best of you. So that's something I always say. So don't think about the result, because the result in a sport event, for example, is too much influenced by other factors that are completely out of your control. So the other guys are training at home exactly like you. So what you have to think about is to give the best. Of course, what I always think about is to train one bit more than the others, which will give me a chance more to beat them. But it's always there, there is also a little bit of luck in the races. So the best that you can do, you have to aim for that. I mean, this is what I try not to do every time. So the best that I can do. But if you think of doing your best, and then you don't trust the guy that is, in case he's not a competition, but is just a teamwork, then you will not be able to do it safely. You will not be feeling safe, and then you will be always a little bit, you're going to influence your performance. So what I suggest always is that choose and get the team trust each other, the best that you can. And if you trust, probably you're in the wrong team. And creating a team together can help, to talk and brainstorm, and being very sincere is always the best. Always. If the guy were not sincere with me in the past, I would not be I will not be reaching the goals that I did so far.
Sure.
So I'm always very happy, you know, being always nice and kind also to the team member and say, yeah, you're good. And then in the back of your mind, you're not trusting the guy because you see that the guy is not doing what should be doing. Then it makes no sense, you know. You're putting in danger everybody.
Well, trust and honesty, great points there, Dario. And then you took that victory. We can't sign off without talking about that. So in 2019, Hungary, you take that victory. What was that feeling like, knowing that this has been a 14-year journey and you actually get the win too?
14 years, yeah, exactly. That's what I said when they asked me. So it was proof that that talent again doesn't exist. It was all about hard work. I mean, it was all about working for that, you know. And I was very close to get the victory already in Cannes on the second race, but probably was a very good lesson for me to get that penalty and in third position, because it gave me something to think about. That it can be very easy to win and very easy to lose. It's just a matter of focusing on that, and probably I was not enough good to get on the first position yet, so it might have ruined my next races even more than what was already. I ruined my next races actually. I couldn't manage to get on the podium in Hungary again because I was so focusing on the result again. Because when you get so close, you think that you can get there, but I was not thinking of doing the best of me. I was always thinking of doing better than the others, which was probably the wrong way for me personally.
Okay, Dario, it's been wonderful chatting. We could probably talk all afternoon. It's been great. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And when World Championship Air Race gets back up and running next year, I wish you all the best and more podiums ahead for you too.
Thanks a lot, Alex. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Right, cheers. Well, folks, it's been wonderful having a nice conversation about high-performance teams. Dario Costa, the Red Bull Air Race pilot. Thank you for joining the show. Please remember to subscribe and share with someone you would appreciate watching the show. And until next time, just stay safe.